Hey, what's up everybody? My name's Paul. I'm with Team SDQ BBQ. I'm today going to be talking with you about pork and kind of showing you what we look for when we're selecting a pork shoulder at the store. When it's in a package, a cryovac seal package, vacuum seal essentially, we can't really tell too much about it just from the outside. So we've used some of our experience gained from what it looks like this until what we want it to be like when we trim it. And they're going to share that with you today. One of the things with a pork shoulder that we look for right off the bat is kind of this juice. You may be able to see in there, if I can get it around to the side there on top of the fat, kind of this pink juice. It's not blood. Blood is drained from the hog during the processing part and wouldn't taste very good if it was blood in reality. So it's actually, in this case, was a frozen pork shoulder, one that we thawed out about 2 days ago, took it out of the freezer, put it in the refrigerator. Nice easy thaw out, and it's still, you can see where the juice from inside the muscle has leaked out and will never really get back into those muscles. So when selecting, if you see a juicy pork shoulder, you know it's probably been frozen and you should skip it. You want that juice on the inside of the meat. You can add flavors, you can add juice, but the natural ones are where the real good flavor is at. And so if it's frozen and you can see that juice, you want to avoid it if you can. If not the end of the world. It's still something you could work with, but you know that you're starting off from something where the juice is not as thoroughly throughout the meat. So another question we've heard is, where is the money muscle? What is a money muscle? A money muscle is essentially a competition barbecue term for the meat of what you turn in that wins you the money. In a pork shoulder, bone in, which is what we typically look for, you'll see a round bone piece kind of on one end, and then whether it's a left or a right shoulder, you'll see if this long flat bone here, see if I can kind of highlight that here for you. This long one there, and the round one here. There's bone there. This long one kind of points away from that, and then boom, that's the money muscle. It's kind of got these extra long striations. Hopefully these come through good. These crossways ones in some better competition brands, Smithfield and whatnot, they're more consistently straight across instead of angled like that. That wouldn't be ideal, but isn't one that would be bad considering the good striations and ribbons of fat going long ways across the muscle. When you're choosing a money muscle and you've identified where it is, one of the tricks I use for sizing it and making sure I can turn in enough pieces from it for the judges is to put my hand on it. In this case, you can see I got 4 fingers of mine, which are pretty good sized fingers. They are well within this center zone of consistent thickness and striations and everything else of the money muscle. You'll know, give or take, I can get at least 6 quality slices, not too thick, not too thin, to be able to turn into the judges. And depending on how the ends trim up, when I see over here, this one doesn't have a lot of fat, so I'm confident the thickness will be consistent through to the end of this money muscle. Sometimes you'll see my hand here, it has this amount of bright white fat, just a hard knuckle right there. And what you're working with really then becomes a lot less. You have to be careful and spend a lot more time trimming it out to be able to get a full amount of slices. So watch out for ones when this side here you can see is just the tiniest bit of fat, but they'll have a lot more fat. It kind of tapers into a point, pointing that direction towards that fat knuckle. So that's something to look out for when you recognize these money muscles. And and want to get into even more detailed selection if there's an abundant supply at the store, which sometimes there is, and it's not a bad time to capitalize on it if you need it. Okay, the next thing around the bone here, we kind of are looking for a consistent thickness of muscle. You can see in this case, the bone being here, there's a really fat horn side. This whole area on this side is called the horn, kind of shaped like a bugle horn. That's why they kind of call it the horn. But with it being so shallow on the bone here, there's not a lot of buffer. You can tell it's not going to be as consistent once we kind of separate and remove this fat. This amount of fat around the horn on the less fatty side, not the fat cap where there's a really thick layer of fat, but the opposite side, between the horn and what's kind of called the sirloin middle section, is this ribbon of fat that in silver skin that prevents smoke and flavor from getting onto all sides of the horn. We like to trim that out to make sure as much of the horn muscle can get flavor, and so knowing and seeing how much of a job that's going to be is part of what we look for. This one doesn't look too bad, really. Our primary attractive thing is this money muscle, which when you pinch along the sides, you kind of learn to get a feel for how is that going to actually size out when it's sliced. And you can see with this one, that's a good, thick, consistent slice from edge to edge. That's going to be a good money muscle. We'll want to be looking for one like this again in a few weeks at our next competition. This one being frozen, we got to use it just for practice. The opposite side depends on your trimming style, some of these points as well. But in our trimming style, we take this entire fat cap, this thick layer of fat that's on the back side of what we call the back side of the pork shoulder. We like to remove that. And you can see along the side, starting at that edge of the money muscle, a ribbon kind of a fat right along through there. That kind of is the place where we're going to remove this real thin layer of fat meat and see how it's already gotten some exposed there. Some people don't like to have that. They like to have it all covered in fat. In our trimming style, doesn't matter. We're going to remove that muscle through there, and this little chunk here, especially kind of stinky part, want to remove down there and then come back around. We'll see that that's actually going to be pretty straightforward and easy to do. In the end, this won't take very long to trim. We can see our good shaping here. We'll start cutting the fat cap off on the back side of that money muscle, and we can identify that through the middle there's a good random marbling. That's another feature we look for in this top section, is random marbling, meaning the good little chunks and poles that will make side filler to help enhance the fullness of the box. And so one of the last things, or first things also we look at, is the weight. In this case, this one is 8.2 pounds, which is a little on the low end. Usually we're looking 8.5 to 9 pounds. And the reason for that is it gives you a lot of forgiveness when you remove that fat cap, and to be able to also still level out the sirloin portion in the middle and be able to have a consistent thickness piece of meat that cooks evenly. So when your money muscle's done, the whole thing is done. And it makes gauging it in the process simpler, which always helps. If you can make it an easy process, you'll have more success. So in the end, remember, round bone on one side with a long pointer bone to the money muscle. That will help you find it in 2 packs. Sometimes you'll see them one facing one way, one facing the other, and it can often be a challenge if you're having trouble locating them. Look for 1 packs or ask for help. Not usually a big deal. Again, my name is Paul with SDQ BBQ. I hope you've enjoyed watching kind of some of these points on selecting a pork shoulder for competition barbecue. Make sure you subscribe and like to our channel and be notified when we have our next exciting videos. We have this one gonna get trimmed, and so at least one more video coming of the pork trimming. We got brisket trim and a few other videos you'll enjoy. Make sure you subscribe, like this video. We'll catch you later. Thanks. Peace. SDQ BBQ.